alongside Harry Benjamin. Alongside Harry Benjamin.
The FIA Formula One World Championship this weekend returns to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It is round number 16 of the championship here as we race around the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. We have more or less 24 corners to race around, 3 sectors as always. 20 corners to race around, 6 kilometres of circuit, 51 laps, top speed of nearly 400 kilometres an hour, 366 kilometres. So very close to that number. 20 corners around this iconic little piece of road. Hard, medium and soft compound tyres. We haven't seen much from the soft tyres from the top runners so far this weekend. We are expecting more of the soft compound tyres to be run in this session. We're about to get going for FP3. I'm going to hand it up to the world feed for a bit to cover the first part of FP3 while I go get a drink and get my head back into things.
The rest of the day, even some very light rain this morning. Up in the commentary box is myself, Harry Benjamin. I've got Karun Chandler and Jamie Chadwick alongside him. Karun, this wind is really going to have an effect on the balance of all the teams here.
Absolutely, we're getting gusts on it. We're getting gusts of up to 25 kilometers an hour at the moment. It's extraordinary. But also, I think because of the location of the track, because it's a street circuit as well, it's shielded in a lot of parts by the buildings. But then it sort of funnels into other bits. So the drivers will get caught out, I think, by a gust of wind, even in a direction perhaps that they didn't expect. And I think that's going to be one of the big challenges of today.
It makes the challenging track, Jamie, even more challenging. But so far this weekend, for Ferrari at least as well, bit of optimism from yesterday. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, quickest of the lot. Didn't quite see what McLaren had though right at the end.
I think, McLaren didn't have a very smooth session at all yesterday, but Ferrari looking strong, and in both cars with 2 quite different setups by the sounds of things. So I think they can take a lot from yesterday, but yesterday the conditions were pretty perfect, to be honest. There was cool conditions, not much wind. I feel like the teams and drivers were in a happy window with that. It was fast as well. We saw some lap times that were super fast for a Friday. Today, I think it's going to be a completely different challenge.
Yeah, well, I think it will be really intriguing to see when we get this green light on at the end of the pit lane in 1 minute and 40 seconds. Who goes out to try and get those first glimpses of the track action? Well, we're up in the commentary box. Down in the pit lane, we can say good afternoon for the first time to Ted Kravitz.
I always want to say morning.
I know, so do
But
I.
I mean, we have listeners and viewers all over the world, but in Europe it's morning, but in Azerbaijan it is, as you say, just approaching 12:30. But yesterday was like a rainy Monday morning for the McLaren team. You know when you've got an important day ahead of you, Harry, and you think, it's an important day, and you have a nightmare getting to work, and you think, that started my important day off the very worst way possible. Well, that was like McLaren yesterday. They had an important weekend coming, and they started it off in the very worst way possible. There was a tube strike. They couldn't get on a bus. It was raining. Their umbrella blew out the other way. It was terrible. Things were going off all over the place. An engine problem that was rectified, okay, but a bit of time lost for Oscar Piastri. Oscar brushing the Tech Pro wall, Lando clonking his car into the Tech Pro wall and breaking his car. So on this most important of weekends for McLaren, where they can clinch the Constructors' Championship, which is what they're in this business to do. Obviously, Piastri and Norris are in this business to win the Drivers' Championship. It all started rather badly. Big reset today. I get the feeling just watching Oscar Piastri go around, shake the hands of every mechanic, not only his side of the garage, but Lando's too. I get the feeling that they are out to prove that they have pace around here. Listen to Charles Leclerc, as you heard him earlier, Harry. He says, you'll be surprised at McLaren's pace when you see it. I've got to say, others up and down the pit lane are not so sure. They're thinking that Mercedes and Ferrari and Max Verstappen will be in amongst them, but the next hour will tell. What do you think? Do McLaren actually have the pace? They're certainly looking like they mean business as I'm looking into their garage this morning.
They certainly do on a weekend where, as you say, they can clinch the Constructors' Championship. But it was a messy day yesterday. It's all about resetting and going again, Karun.
It is. I think there were some clear reasons for it. I think Jamie's absolutely right. I think today is going to be a bit of a bigger challenge for the teams because of these wind conditions. You've got to find a happy balance, and that would include a car that's not as wind sensitive. You want to have a car that's a slightly more benign car, even if you're giving away some peak performance. But if you can make the car less susceptible to a gust of wind and just, therefore it means that drivers are less prone to making mistakes, you will ultimately perhaps have a better qualifying. So I think that's what this session is going to be about. We wonder, will we see a flurry of cars going out early? Will they just sit and wait, not risk in these conditions? To me, I think you want to get a feel. I think the drivers want to get a bit of a feel for what the conditions are like. Leave a bit of a safety margin because you don't have a crash 2 hours before qualifying. But I think you want to get a feel for just how sensitive your car is in these conditions.
I think it's absolutely that, and as well, I think it's the unpredictability that comes with wind. A lot of the drivers study wind maps, so they know exactly where they're going to have a headwind, a tailwind, a bit of a side wind, so they know exactly where the balance of their car is going to be compromised. But here you don't really have that luck because you've got these kind of channels where the wind can be a bit unpredictable and you're going to get these gusts. So I think getting a feel for that's going to be very important.
Well, one of the other things to notice is, and we saw some images before we came on air, is that a worry around is you do get, especially in the final sector, a lot of trees overhanging the circuit. We've seen a lot of leaves and general bits of rubbish that have come off the racing line, some getting onto it, including big branches as well that could very easily be blown onto the track. That's a big risk.
Well, especially if a branch lands on top of a car. I think there is a risk around here. There's a lot of trees. It's too late to put any netting or do anything about it, so we're just going to have to cross our fingers and hope that doesn't happen. What I'd like to see, and Ted, maybe this is something you can help us with and have a little wander up and down the pit lane, looking at downforce levels, because as Jamie well knows, sometimes if you take downforce off, it makes the car less sensitive. But the forecast for tomorrow is, again, for a bit of rain. So what do the teams do? Do they experiment today with, trying some different downforce options to give them the best car for today, but then maybe you need more downforce if it rains tomorrow? So I think there's some interesting and difficult choices for the teams to make.
Well, Yuki Tsunoda doesn't look like he's in much of a hurry to get out onto the circuit. It's again another crucial weekend for the Japanese driver. Has he found, though, maybe a bit of a fix for particularly the long run pace? That's where he struggles a little bit more compared to the quali pace. There's still definitely time to be found there. But actually, Tsunoda's long run average on the mediums was in the high 146s yesterday. Few tenths off Verstappen's soft tyre long run, but it was in the mix with Piastri's McLaren. So the data kind of backs up his optimism, but maybe Baku's also a bit of an outlier track.
I think Baku could be an outlier. I think if you look at Max's record here versus, say, Checo Perez, who we know has always been good here, he's had occasions where he's been beaten by his teammate here, and, well, more often than not, actually. I think with Yuki, he's actually had quite a good few races recently. It's been masked a little bit in Monza. He had an issue in Q3, so actually I think he's finding a bit of form. He needs a good weekend, obviously, this weekend. The problem is, every time he has a good weekend, you've got Isaac Hadjo having an even better weekend, which seems to sort of overshadow any of his good fortune.
Well, it will be certainly a big weekend. We can just see there some of the changes since Australia to Italy at the last checkpoint, and ebbing and flowing, particularly in that midfield at Ferrari, finding a bit of pace over the course of 2/3 of the season, really. So trying to challenge and get themselves back up and fighting, having been, of course, in the fight for the Constructors' Championship last year, some way away from McLaren this year. Right, we were talking about Yuki Tsunoda, and we could hear what he had to say after yesterday's rally.
Well, how was it? How were the the trials, the tests that you said you were doing yesterday, how did they go today?
It's good.
Yeah? Good feeling?
I mean, short run, there's some obviously room to put it all together. But you know, something that I tried and it's good. That was something we experiencing, in FP2 everything. But mainly what we were focused was long run, and that seems a lot much better. I mean, never seen that kind of things so far in this year in the long run. So far it's working, which is good.
It's still a buzz.
It makes sense. Now it makes sense.
Now it makes sense.
Wow.
Okay, that's good.
With so far with the long run,
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
And is it still a buzz when you get out there at these top speeds? Or does it already slow it down? You're already on the straight thinking, I could do with a bit more power. Is it still a buzz, these high speeds around here?
I mean, it's always, here's always need a good confidence with the braking and everything. And yeah, I just obviously focus needs to be, have to focus a bit more short run, but it's getting there lap by lap and just build up throughout the week. So, but it's in a good direction. I think one thing, like I said, main thing that was positive was long run. So yeah, keep it positive and just see how I can do it tomorrow.
Yuki Tsunoda then. So, feeling positive, sounding more optimistic as well. Of course, the rumours continue to swirl around about where he will be next year, who's going to be in that second seat. Of course, he replaced the man we're seeing right now, Liam Lawson. As we get some cars out on track, Ollie Behrman in the Haas has also joined him onto the circuit. Liam Lawson doesn't know where he's going to go either. Kind of almost led to believe it might be a bit of a shootout for the Racing Bulls seat between Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda, perhaps?
I think it's forever a shootout between those drivers. Every race they turn up to, they must feel like they're constantly fighting, which, I don't know, I think that instills a little bit of jeopardy always, but shows they have to perform. The reason we're not seeing many cars out is because I think this track, where they brought a softer compound with a soft tyre, we found yesterday the medium tyre was working really well, so they're saving those medium tyres. They basically don't want to go out and use up all their tyres early in the session.
Yeah, so that medium tyre, having got a step softer, is expected after what we saw yesterday to be the preferred qualifying tyre for later on this afternoon. But it's not really due to more grip, it's just the soft tyre just needs that more thermal management. You have to really manage that to get the most out of it, and then you're just not going to be quick.
Exactly. We have seen it a little bit earlier this year as well. We saw, I think it was Saudi, even in Monza, I think George Russell was trying to ask to see if he could use the medium in Q3. Here it seems a little bit more black and white. I think there's a few teams that may be able to get a bit more out of the soft tyre than others. That's an advantage because that means that they have more sets of soft tyres to use. At the moment, the medium tyres are a bit like gold dust. They have 2 sets and they're not going to want to be using those too quickly.
Yeah, FP1, all the drivers only use softs. In FP2, I think 6 out of the 8 drivers from the top 4 teams only use softs. And I think only Albon has used the hard tyres this weekend so far. So many drivers choosing to save sets. All 3 drivers out on track on the hards.
The wind is pushing a lot to the right on the straight.
I think that's going to be the first of several radio lessons we hear about Wayne today. But Lewis Hamilton's the one with 1 less set of mediums. So he's only got 2 sets of mediums to carry into today, having used an extra set yesterday. Ferrari splitting the strategy in their pit garage. Yesterday, Charles Leclerc used an extra set of softs. So that could, again, play out a bit today. Let's keep in mind, they're going to need 1 set of mediums and 1 set of hards for the race, right? So that's, that is a really important thing. So now what does Lewis do at this stage? Does he not use the medium at all in this session to make sure he has a set for qualifying? Does he use the mediums, both sets of mediums at qualifying, and then run the race with a used set of mediums, which have got 1 heat cycle on it? So these are all conversations that the engineering officers will be having up and down pit lane.
As Isaac Hadjar and the other Racing Bulls comes into the pits. Liam Lawson also back in the pits. That leaves only Ollie Behrman out on track. We had a brief yellow flag. Behrman is the only car on the track. I think he just went straight on in the first sector. As Ollie Behrman, the man with 10 penalty points to his name, needs to be squeaky clean at least until Brazil, when he'll get 2 points that drop off his licence. He's just making his way through turn 7 at the moment. Nico Hulkenberg, a man of experience around here and in that top 10 at the moment. And in the Drivers' Championship, as we get another look at what happened to Behrman. So coming towards turn 4, and just decides to bail out of it.
Bit of real locking, it seemed, just on the entry, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's done that a few times in the last practice sessions. I think that's a situation where maybe if it's qualifying his last lap, he'll try and make the corner, but just not worth taking the risk. In practice, just get out of it early. These walls definitely bite. We saw that yesterday already.
So a bit of intel from the pit lane from our eagle-eyed colleague down at Sky Italia, Marc Genet, who was just said that the Ferrari rear wings they've gone to the lower wing level. So yesterday, Lewis Hamilton had slightly more downforce on the rear compared to Charles Leclerc. Overnight, both cars have now gone to the slightly lower levels. So we'll see how that plays out as the rest of the day unfolds.
Well, just the one car out on track at the moment then, in the form of Ollie Bearman, who's actually just embarking on a lap. Still a way to go though, in this final practice session before we go qualifying.
The ads kill me every time. The ads get me every time.
Lando Norris emerging from the pits. Here's Bearman. Challenging with the wind. Another of many, I'm sure we will get radio messages reporting just how blustery it is out there. The wind is a direct headwind from turns 1 to 2, but it kind of gets a little bit lost because especially with the tall buildings down that start-finish straight, it creates almost a funnel effect, and that then completely switches the balance to what we're seeing and the teams will be seeing on the data.
Yeah, but I think one area where it will be a real challenge is from 15 to 16, and that's why I think we saw Bearman have that moment where it's pushing you from behind into 16, and I think an analogy perhaps how people can understand is, imagine you've opened a big umbrella and you're coming out of the tube station on an extremely windy day, and suddenly you come up and the wind catches your brolly basically when you come up. That's kind of what it's like when they come through 15, when it's all shielded with thick buildings. Suddenly they're exposed at 16 and the wind just catches them, and that's what these drivers are having to contend with.
I now understand why my umbrella was confiscated from me this morning on my way into the circuits. Not safe in these windy conditions. Norris out there though, getting a feel for himself, making his way through the long left-hander of 5, quickly into 6 as well. Brief moment to catch your breath before you head towards the Old Town part of the circuit where it gets so incredibly tight, and this is going to be a great view on board Lando Norris as you head up the hill. Just over 7 meters wide, one of the narrowest parts, the narrowest part of the circuit, I think on the entire calendar as well. And a great shot on board with Lando Norris there to try and somewhat gauge how literally they are threading the needle.
And just look, we didn't see the Piastri yesterday, but let's have a look. On the right-hand side, there's the battery indicator. So it looks like he's got about 2/3 of his battery still with him. And now watch, as he comes out of the final actual corner, look at that indicator going down, down, down. He's dumping all of the energy that he's got, and it'll go completely into the red as he crosses the finish line before he does a charge lap. And that's why when they're going for these sort of quality simulation push laps, they can't do 2 laps in a row because you haven't got the juice in the battery to do that. Norris a 45.8 on that lap.
31 points behind his teammate Oscar Piastri in the Drivers' Championship. And you can see, one for one, bit of bouncing and all of those leaves that just get sucked up and thrown out from the underside of that McLaren, from the trees that overhang parts of this circuit, flying off in the wind. So his first little taste for that. So Bearman though, still out there fastest of the only 2 lap times that have been set. Liam Lawson out there along the Hadjar, as well as Piastri now embarks on his lap. Sky Sports and Now viewers, a reminder that you're able to jump on board with any of the 20 Formula One drivers on this year's grid and listen in on their team radio. To get started, all you need to do is download the Sky Sports app to your phone or your tablet, which you can do by scanning the QR code on your screen now. Once you're there, log in with your Sky ID and head to the Sky Sports F1 F1 channel to choose your driver. Sky Glass, Sky Q and Sky Stream customers, you can also access this experience via the interactive button on your remote control, and you can ride on board with Lewis Hamilton, who is out there at the moment, or indeed Oscar Piastri, who we are seeing going fastest through that first sector. So the track now, Jamie, starting to get a little busier.
Getting busier, they're starting to feed out now. I think we're going to see a bit of a different approach with the drivers, though, in this session. I think yesterday, with the McLaren drivers especially, they were going for it. They were touching walls. Lewis Hamilton was touching walls. They were going for it, pushing very hard. Today, with these conditions, that lap of Lando looked pretty under the limit, to be honest. I think Oscar's going to go quite a lot quicker here. Also struggling with that understeer in the last corner and, yeah, getting pushed wide there. That's just the effect of the wind. He'll feel like the balance of the car just doesn't feel good there, and it's just how aggressive the wind is. But yeah, threading the needle here. It's a lot slower than yesterday. Even this lap from Oscar. Going to go P1, but it's still going to be a little way away from what we saw yesterday. So I think it's a slightly different approach before qualifying, just not wanting to make too many mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday's quickest time, Jamie, as you say, in FP2 of 41.29 for Lewis Hamilton. You know, we're 3.5 seconds away from it, and normally at the start of FP3 we do see slower times and it ramps up, but not this far off. So there's no doubt about it that the track conditions are having quite an effect here, or the wind conditions, well.
I think Oscar Piastri left a fair bit of margin as well, coming out particularly through turn 15, where all of them were bouncing across the barrier.
Yeah, that's also a problem. I mean, it's just sketchy everywhere for the Sunday. I don't know, it's just, every corner feels worse, so it's...
Tell you what, that's not a great feeling for Lando, having yesterday put it in the wall, and then today the conditions are tough, so you don't feel confident anyway. That's not a nice feeling to have at all.
No, playing catch-up very much so then for Lando. Norris fourth at the moment. Piastri fastest as Hamilton again coming through that left-hander, offsetting that Ferrari. So easy to find yourself running wide.
Yeah, 16. Again, it's the wind behind you. Yeah. You know, we're seeing that if you get a headwind from 2 to 1, that means you've got a tailwind, sort of a tailwind, into 16 as you're turning across it. And it's much more exposed there than you are. So Hamilton up to 5th as he comes across the line. And Leclerc's on a better lap here, Harry.
Yeah, good first sector from Charles Leclerc. Actually, the team working together yesterday to help Hamilton get that fastest first sector overall. Leclerc gave him a tow. This time around, Leclerc goes up into 2nd spot on the soft tyre behind Behrman's fastest lap time, which still stands, which he set on the hard tyre.
I know. So Behrman, you know, he's going
quick
around.
Yesterday.
Yeah, and he's going round at the moment on that hard tyre, and I think just by doing lap after lap after lap, he is, you know, he's getting himself into a bit of a rhythm here. His best lap came, as I said, on the last one that he's done. They're not getting the peak performance. You know, he's done his best lap on his 7th lap of the hard tyre.
5th fastest yesterday as well was Ollie Behrman as Alex Albon makes his way around the lap. Just over half an hour left of this practice session. Let's check in, shall we, down in pit lane. Ted, what have you got?
Well, if you're wondering whether there's anything going on with Max Verstappen or the Mercedes, I can reassure you that there is not. They are just waiting until about 25 minutes into the session. Kimi Antonelli was the first Mercedes to go out. He went out on exactly 20 minutes into the session. George Russell is just sitting in the garage. He looks ready to go. So does Max Verstappen. And yeah, as we're seeing the time starting to fall, they're happy with their setup. They don't need to go out early. They're just going to let everybody put a bit more rubber down and see what the wind is doing, and then they're going to go for it. By the way, Harry, I did see George Russell this morning looking a lot better than he did yesterday.
Oh, so good.
Pleased to report that while he's still got a bit of a sore throat, he's definitely, just from the outside, this morning looking better than yesterday.
Yeah, well, that's good. He did sound rather hoarse on the, I think, one team radio message we heard on Friday. Maybe needed a bit of a throat lozenge. Both him and Antonelli looked a little quicker as well. Antonelli was right behind his teammate in the standings yesterday. Tsunoda's popped up to 2nd, by the way, the last few moments. Albon up to 3rd in that Williams as Antonelli embarks on his soft tyre run.
So Piastri, interestingly, he's been told to do a double cool lap. So there's 2 slow laps. He's done a 2:25 on his first slow lap. He's on another slow one now. So underlining your point from earlier, that even on a single lap, because we got, you know, quite a long 6-kilometer track here, they are struggling to get the temperature under control on that soft tyre.
I think George Russell yesterday as well, his big moment caused on his flying lap. Didn't quite have all the tyres up to temperature. Didn't help his factor either, so a real challenge. Williams, one of the teams that have been struggling with getting their tyres up to temperature throughout the sessions. Monza trying so many different things throughout the practice sessions and just not able to unlock the speed that they have there. Hoping they have made a step forward this weekend. Norris, though, back out there. Heard him a little earlier, not too confident with his front wing, but finding the time. Fastest in the first sector, fastest in the middle sector, and making his way now down towards the start-finish straight.
It'll be interesting, he's got a slipstream here as well, but it'll be interesting to see if this last sector is actually much better, because we didn't quite have a slipstream there, I'm not sure for Max, but the last sector is where they've been losing to Ollie Beckman, and I don't know whether wind's changed slightly that's making it tricky in that last corner of 16 and up to this front straight, but yeah, he lost a tenth in the last sector as well.
Yeah, but he does go to the top like 0.8 of a second on that soft front. Liam Lawson popping up behind him in the hard. I think it was Sonoda who then in turn got a great toe. He's embarking on a lap in his Red Bull. Kimi Antonelli comes across the line in second. A man wanting to put in a good show this weekend with yellow flag out on the circuit. And back to green again, so maybe someone's just had a little run off and back on again. Leclerc now up and over the hill at the castle. 8, 9, 10, 11. Come at you quickly, but he's fastest through the first sector.
Yeah, just to underline, Liam Lawson got a double toe there, so he was behind both Norris and Sonoda. And look at his straight line speed. He went faster than anybody in the final sector with that double toe, 10 kilometers faster than Lando. So that's what the slipstream is worth. Leclerc's another one at 16.
So easy to happen there. The way you turn in, it's a little bit more exposed momentarily. You're not quite surrounded by the tall buildings here, and then it gets funneled as you come through this quick left, right dart. 2.2 kilometers that takes you straight to the start-finish line, and that is where the wind can really affect your lap, and you can lose it all in that effectively final proper corner of the track as we see him sailing off.
He's officially done the fastest, well, not officially, he's done the fastest lap of the session with a 43.0. But if it was qualifying, that time will be disallowed because he's gone beyond track limits. So, yeah, Leclerc's first two sectors were mighty quick. But obviously, this must mean that brief yellow we saw at turn 3, Lewis Hamilton.
He's got very good at that this weekend.
Yes. It is a bit of a... I always think that is a bit of a skill. And probably preferred than having to figure out how to put the car in reverse, which always looks a little bit clunky sometimes.
I think the theoretical lap times are going to be quite interesting because every driver looks like they're able to put a sector here and there together, but with the wind it's hard to put it all together. So if you actually look at Charles's lap, he lost half a second in that last sector, so he would have been away and gone in terms of ultimate lap time if he didn't make that mistake.
George Russell, who was on a quick lap yesterday before it fell away from him, right, that was actually turn 12, wasn't it, in the middle sector, but Mercedes thinking that if he'd managed to complete that lap, he would have been on par with the front runners, of which Charles Leclerc is that at the moment, to the top of the times, a 1:43.0, but George Russell, having been confined to the pits for the majority of this first half of practice 3, now back out, along with the other man who was with him, Max Verstappen, so we'll see what they've got for their first offerings as George Russell comes across the line and picks it up into 12th.
Yeah, good to see Antonelli showing early confidence there, P4 at the moment. I think this is an important day for the rookies as Verstappen goes second, maybe not the rookie, but I think it's an important day for the rookies because in these conditions it will be easy to make a mistake. It'll be easy to, you know, go wide at 16 and have the lap disallowed, something like that. And actually, if you can weather these conditions and put on a good performance, I think that'll really, you know, that'll be an important marker for any of the rookies. There's a yellow flag somewhere.
Yeah, it's gone green again though, so it probably just trying to see if anyone has come to a slow on the track map. I'm sure we're going to look at someone running off and doing a lovely pirouette, much like Lewis Hamilton did a few moments ago, and back onto the track. Okay, everybody out on the circuit now, with the exception of Ollie Behrman in 8th, who's come back in his Haas, and everybody out there, majority on that soft tyre, a few running those hard tyres though, but certainly I'm expected to see that the medium tyre being that preferred one in qualifying, but the conditions right now quite unique to what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, we didn't see Piastri improve, did we? He did a first sector of a 36.5.
I think he got traffic and backed off.
Right.
So I think we'll see what Piastri's got next time around as Hamilton with a great final
last sector.
Fast in a straight line is that Ferrari, and look at that for a toe for Yuki Tsunoda, except actually a little bit down on time in that final sector. Where is Tsunoda's fastest top speed time?
3:53. That is the fastest we've seen all weekend. That is incredible. So 3:53. That's 220 miles an hour. That is a monster toe.
Oh, and there was the yellow flag. It was Gabriel Bortoleto in the first part of the lap, locking up and going exactly where Hamilton went off in turn 3. Front left smokes away, and a short little pirouette, and he'll be back on track. I think Ant worked out that from turn 16 you are full throttle for 25 seconds. I think this is where Piastri's lap went away from him, catching the traffic through 4.
Hey, look at this. Really? I think he may have started continuous lap, but if so, this is his first.
So frustrated to catch traffic then for Oscar Piastri, but this is practice. It's going to be the same in qualifying, so they're going to have to really manage where they are positioned on the circuit.
It is and it isn't. I think in qualifying you're all doing push laps. In practice you now have a few drivers out of sync. If that was Ollie Ben, when we saw him go out early, he's now started his kind of high fuel race running with continuous laps, which means he doesn't have to get out of the way. Out of courtesy, if you've got someone pushing behind you, which they know they'll have with Piastri, I think it's a bit of an unspoken rule to get out of the way, which is explaining Oscar's annoyance, but he's got a lap now where he's pushing, even though it's his second push lap on the top car.
So let's have a look here. This is 16. This is where so many drivers have been struggling. Oscar gets the nose into the apex nicely, picks up the throttle nice and easily as well, and good traction. Now he's going to get a distant tow from Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin, so this could give him a little bit of extra performance. He is a bit down on the first 2 sectors, but that's, I mean, you know, up on his personal best, bit down on Hamilton. We'll have a look at the time, and he does go quickest with a 42.7. So the last sector for Piastri, what did he do? 3:37 speed across the line. Yeah, Hamilton's still a bit quicker, wasn't he?
Lewis Hamilton's last sector very strong. He actually lost quite a lot in the first and second sector. If you put the 2 Ferraris laps together, they've got a really strong lap out there.
Wow, look at this.
Nice speed coming, but
That's where Charles made the mistake in the last corner and ran wide. So he carried a lot more in on the brakes with that win, so that's why the front said no and he went wide.
Carlos Sainz has just gone second fastest. That's a good lap. Good lap. We expect Williams to be competitive here, and both cars in the top 10, so that is very strong for Carlos Sainz. We'll have with Gasly. This is the yellow we must have seen earlier, Harry.
oh, did he have a brief touch with the wall there? That looked like a bit of a nudge on the front left coming through 6. We saw Hamilton do that yesterday.
I hit the exit 6.
Ooh,
And a bit of injury picked up as a result.
kickback on the steering wheel. Oh, this was Sainz.
Was that Carlos Sainz Senior or Junior? Because it was rally-esque from the Spaniard, who has popped up into second fastest. Gabriel Bortoleto struggling a little bit out there, right at the back at the moment, 20th. Another lock-up for him down at this time turn 15.
Is it a bit weird that Leclerc's name's not been deleted, by the way? Because he was way off the track.
Yeah, nothing's popped up, has it, on race control?
That's a good question. I mean, he obviously lost time there, but it should be an instant deletion. So in qualifying, that's probably a given. Slipped under the radar there, I think.
Yeah.
Less than half an hour to go, though. Hamilton is looking strong. And Williams in that midfield, though, striking distance from the top teams. Sainz and we'll see Albon. He is up inside the top 10 at the moment. But I think Lewis Hamilton, this confidence, he's started to see progress with this Ferrari. He said, you know, it's the first time, every time I go to a track now, it's the first time I've been there in this Ferrari. And after an up and down season, not the one he would have wanted, we know it's all eyes on 2026 for him, but he wants to take something from this year. He wants to build the baseline as he comes into the pits. Right now, though, showing strong in the last session before qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, Leclerc's just on a 42.3 now, so that's 7 tenths quicker than his previous effort. And then, unlike what you were saying, Jamie, wasn't it, the last sector, he's now put the lap together. And Ferrari, they've looked good throughout free practice. I mean, it'd be great to see if they can carry the form into qualifying and be a genuine threat. I mean, Leclerc's chasing 5 consecutive poles on top of a sprint qualifying pole as well, you know.
And still looking for that first win.
I know. It's not the ratio he would like. I'm sure he would much prefer the ratio the other way around.
Well, he broke the Monaco curse. Maybe he could break the Baku curse as well, because we know here that actually starting on the front row, it is not a given that you will win the race or even end up on the podium. We see more sliding from the Ferrari previously, and there goes Pierre Gasly off at turn 1. So this is interesting actually, because this happened yesterday, and it was the reason Oscar Piastri was brought up for a yellow flag infringement. He was given a reprimand for that, because even if the yellow flag doesn't come out quick enough, as you exit out of turn 2, if you are passing that scene and there is a car off and turning around, coming back, and the green panel comes on, you're supposed to acknowledge that, well, there must have been a previous yellow zone. But because it happened literally as Oscar Piastri was coming into the braking zone, he was given a reprimand, but they have all been warned about that very scenario there, because the white flag was out, but it wasn't quite quick enough to turn to a yellow for Piastri, and it was only momentarily that Pierre Gasly went off in that practice session yesterday.
Alex Albon has now got the 3rd most number of race starts for Williams. That sort of indicates just how many races we have per season now. You know, and if you look at Mansell or Patresi's day, it used to be 16. Ralf Schumacher's day, it snuck up to 18. I remember when it went to 18 and people went, wow, 18 races, this is unbelievable. Got 2 extra races now, what a long season. And now we're wrapping off 24.
7 to go, 3 sprints to go as well. But for Alex Albon in that Williams, they've scored 86 points so far, scored 84 points in the previous 7 seasons combined, but they want more.
The ads are unbelievable.
Up in his Mercedes, but with DRS activated a fake toe ahead, and that was enough for Verstappen to pop himself up into 2nd spot a few moments ago. So, I mean, Karun, we could be in for a nice battle here for pole position.
Yeah, I really hope it carries into qualifying. Obviously, we've got 20 minutes to go, and generally they try and have one more run, don't they, before qualifying. But I think this weekend is a bit different because of the soft tyre not necessarily being the best one. They're all having to juggle their run plans to make sure they have enough of the mediums and indeed the hard for potentially qualifying, certainly for the race. So we are seeing quite a bit of variation here in terms of what people are going to do.
Indeed. Of course, medium compound tyres, the best tyre this weekend to run on. We have just under 20 minutes to go in this session. I think Elizabeth ended up going to bed. Seems like you're stuck with me today. Seems like you no longer have your mod. Yeah. Well, Callum got his mod taken off him, quite unfortunately. But he'll learn. He'll learn. He probably won't ever get it back. But yeah. 20 minutes to go here in FP3 as we watch Charles Leclerc run through now the castle section on the soft compound tyres. It's going to be interesting here, and it's going to be good in terms of a race run on these softs. He's 1.2 seconds down in the first sector. We have seen most people now as he just taps the wall there on the exit of 10, into the Singapore Sling, as well known. So nothing yet for Charles Leclerc, as Max Verstappen has gone fastest through the first sector. He's running now into the castle section. Charles Leclerc has just gone faster, 142.328. Max Verstappen running now and make his way into turn number 15, and now braking into turn 16 hitting the apex quite nicely. Of course, we've heard of this tailwind so far in this session. He's gone 3 tenths up through the second sector. Absolutely rapid for Max Verstappen here in this second sector. Purple. So it's all going his way at this point, Max. And he'll get quite a juicy toe from the car in front of the Aston Martin. This will be a really good lap here for Max Verstappen. We'll get a toe plus DRS plus all the battery that he has. 6 tenths faster. He's gone to the top. It's a 141.727. Now only half a second off the pace of FP2. Yesterday, Charles Leclerc into... There you go. So that is why he was asking for as to whether or not he had a puncture. Just having a little scrape with the fence. The Louis Vuitton fence down there for Charles Leclerc.
That slipstream you mentioned, Jamie, was worth 8 kilometers an hour for Max Verstappen compared to the Ferrari, as Liam Lawson went for a full 360 there.
Yeah, left his tyres pretty worse for wear after that. He'd say, he lost it as he was coming into the corner, and that was all she wrote. Managed to save it, but that front right tyre and front left looking a little parched.
Booted the power there to make sure he spun full 360 rather than just end up. So there's actually a little bit of skill in that spin as well.
Well, we were talking about the Ferraris as Hamilton is on a lap as well, and goes through the exact corner just now where Charles Leclerc had a dice against the wall. We're talking about the change of rear wings, and I think we can see a side-by-side of how Ferrari have flipped a bit out there, Karun. So I think the top image seems from yesterday, and Charles Leclerc's today. So continually working, both yesterday I should say, as they were trying different setups throughout the course of that practice session.
Yeah, and we believe that the lower one, looking here, let's look at Hamilton. Yeah, you can see he's running the wing similar to the lower image on what we see from Leclerc yesterday. So lower downforce.
Check the suspension.
You see?
Yeah, we're checking.
Check the suspension then. So Charles Leclerc back in the pits, Ted.
Yeah, as he's just wheeled back. But yeah, it's really interesting. So Ferrari have essentially, with their rear wing, they've done a Max in Monza. They started with a bit more of a sort of straight across wing that you just saw the comparison of there, and then have just sort of trimmed it out. And all right, with whether it was more of a sort of drill or dentist drill, it sort of trimmed that rear wing out. But crucially, what it's given them is this immense straight line speed, but with the inherent mechanical grip of the Ferrari, they're not losing it in the first 2 sectors. That's why we're seeing that. Wow, 6 tenths of a second. Talk about doing a Max in Monza. Max has done a Max himself, and has actually announced himself as a proper player amongst the McLarens and the Ferraris, if we are in any doubt. Harry, what I'm interested to see is whether the changes, and they're still making changes on Piastri's car and Norris's, are going to be enough. Are McLaren really in this? Are they not in this? Oh, does this look like Leclerc is, I know he's just swapping water bottles. His car looks okay, he's not getting up.
For now, yeah, a bit of a check though for Ferrari, but Max Verstappen flying. We'll see if Tsunoda can do anything about it when he's out there. He's on the soft tire at the moment, but there's a big margin for Max Verstappen. It is just practice, and we know the conditions are tricky out there with the wind too, but that is confidence coming into qualifying off the back of the Monza where they felt like they found something.
Yeah, and in the lower downforce configuration, the Red Bull does seem competitive, doesn't it? Even in Canada, it was sort of not as bad. Obviously, that was a slightly old weekend where Mercedes suddenly came to the fore, but it does seem, for the second race weekend in a row, in a lower downforce config, Red Bull are in the fight, and it makes it tricky for Tsunoda now, because these are the weekends where there's opportunity to score decent points for the team in the Constructors' Championship, and he's got to fulfill that potential as well. He comes through 15, Gasly's going to get out of the way, but Gasly's going to get a great toe to start his lap. Tsunoda over a second down though in the first 2 sectors.
I don't think he's going to get much of a toe. Stroll is a little bit up the road, a bit of distance toe, but for Tsunoda, will improve his position, but it's not going to be a challenge for Max Verstappen, even though Tsunoda was mighty in a straight line. The DRS rear wing flies open. Let's see where this does improve Tsunoda up to. It's inside the top 10, but it's nearly 1.5 seconds down.
Yeah, the track's ramping up now, isn't it? As the session unfolds, it's cleared up. We said we don't got the overnight rain. The track's ramping up, the times are coming. Interestingly, we're still half a second slower than yesterday's best time. So it's taking a while, and with these wind conditions, it is trickier. As Alex Albon on a good lap, fastest of anybody in Sector 1, finds his way through the castle section now. This is where you come to this incredibly difficult braking zone. You bring the car across to the left-hand side, try and brake in a straight line. 415, keep the steering wheel straight, come off the brake and turn into the apex. Make sure you don't kiss the barrier on the right. He's still up in the first two sectors. Nice clean exit and a good run to the line. Could be a good lap here for Alex Albon.
Flying at the moment.
Very good. I don't think he's going to get the purple last sector just because of the lack of slipstream, but they can be very happy with the performance in the first two sectors as we see a yellow flag out as well.
We do.
Turn one.
See if it goes away quick enough. It does. So maybe someone's just had a little off down there. But for Alex Albon across the line, up into second, but 2.5 tenths away from Max Verstappen. George Russell flying through that middle sector. He's not going to get maybe the best final sector because he hasn't got any help from a toe in front of him, as Lando Norris now fastest of anybody through the first sector. This is where it's ramping up, the final laps before we go qualifying later on this afternoon around this Baku street circuit. Russell pops himself up to third. So whilst they're quick, at the moment Verstappen is clear. McLaren about to show their might.
Yeah, Tsunoda, by the way, I think might be on a used set of softs, just on the information we could see up in the commentary box. So that might explain some of that time deficit there. But Lando Norris now up by half a second, Harry, in the first two sectors. Opens up the wheel. He's got nobody in front of him to help him drag across the line. The last sector is basically just turn 16, and then this 2.2 kilometer run, or 2 kilometer run to the timing line. As Norris now clears space ahead of him. Does he lose too much in the last sector, or can he still go P1? Wow, still half a second.
Mighty from Lando Norris. Just to say, it's actually more impressive from Alex Albon now, though, 7 tenths of drift, but he had to close his DRS coming across the line because of the yellow that was out in turn 1. So that would have cost him as he gets oh so close to the wall. I think that was a touch. It was a skim across the barrier for Albon. I suppose you'd call that perfect. Oh, maybe not that perfect.
I think that was a separate corner.
But no margins given. This, I think, might have been the brief yellow that we saw. Ollie Behrman deciding to bail out of it down at turn 1 and getting himself back onto the track fairly easily. Behrman's earlier holding up at the moment.
Massive snap there for Oscar Piastri coming out of turn 4. I think he's bailed out of it. Yeah, he's that would have caught his attention there. I have to say, I don't know. We'll see some data later on whether McLaren have turned the engines up a bit, but that last sector from Norris without a slipstream was very strong. 336 in terms of straight line speed, very competitive without any toe there. So yeah, McLaren starting to flex their muscles a bit.
On the flip side, just looking further down the order, Gabriel Bortoleto struggling out there at the moment. We've seen him off a few times, but down in 20th, 5 seconds off, as we get another look at Oscar Piastri making his way through 3. Teammate nicely out of the way, and a bit of traffic in the front with Antonelli and the Racing Bulls as well. Of Hadjar, so having to weave his way, and there steps the rear and manages to control it, but then backs off. So didn't get to see what Oscar Piastri had on that one, but this is looking mighty for McLaren, but Max Verstappen is going to have another go.
Yeah, he's improved his personal first sector now, only 500ths away from Lando's time, but he looks like he's bailed in the middle sector. Yeah, he's backed out of it.
Yeah.
He's backed out of it. So Verstappen clearly didn't feel like the lap was going to improve. Let's see, where are Ferrari at the moment? So what are they up to? Riding on board with Carlos Sainz. So his teammate up in third at the moment. Sainz's first 2 sectors, 8.5 tenths. So that'll, if he can keep that going, it'll put him around sort of Mercedes territory, P5, P6, if he gets a clean last sector.
Yellow flag out. I think hearing it's for Oscar Piastri, who's gone straight on at turn 1, which won't be any good. That'll be another lap gone for Piastri, unless he's doing that double call now and really upsetting the rhythm of this final 10 minutes of final practice. Sainz up into 10th spot, and Carlos Sainz really wanting to get back into the points, hasn't been there since the Canadian Grand Prix. Bit of bad luck coming his way as well, and the nature of how competitive it is right now. Charles Leclerc out there, down on time in that middle sector.
Yeah, he's had a poor middle sector. That is a new set of tyres for both Ferraris at the moment, but he's lost 7 tenths to Lando Norris just in the middle sector. The first sector was actually pretty comparable, but a big chunk of time lost in the middle part of the lap.
Charles Leclerc making his way around. Kimi Antonelli's down in 4th at the moment. Actually, I think you said it earlier, Karun. Better weekend so far for Antonelli. He's actually ahead of Russell at the moment. They're both on outlaps though, so we'll see what they've got in these final stages. This was Piastri losing it and having to abandon ship once more.
Yeah, the rear of the car just not sticking with him on corner entry, coming in, that snap there, and lucky to bail out of it early enough that it didn't end up in that barrier. So it's always an uncomfortable feeling, I have to say, when I see cars coming head-on back into traffic. It's not, well, there is nothing else you can do. You go down there.
And here it's a regularity down at turn 1. Such is the wide expanse of space, but then you find yourself going off in that castle section and there's no room to do that. You've got to reverse.
Yeah, Antonelli, just going back to him, I feel like this is what Mercedes want from him, right? He's had a clean practice run so far. Albon pop, sat down at turn 4.
Yeah, having to put it into reverse.
Yeah, but for Antonelli, you know, we talked about how at Zandvoort and in Italy, you know, he ended up in the gravel in both of those weekends, cost him track time, knocked his confidence, and then he was always on the back foot. This weekend, I feel like he's had a nice, clean run. I don't want to jinx him, he's got 6 minutes of session to go.
He said something about Leclerc and he ended up hitting the wall.
He still ended up breaking that line.
I think the wind's picking up a lot. Yeah, I think so.
So maybe the wind catching Albon out there.
Yeah, but Antonelli so far, I think just having that clean weekend has allowed him to build up pace, build up confidence. And, you know, he's been a match for George yesterday and today. So fingers crossed for him that he can carry this into qualifying.
Another yellow flag out on track, gone green again as we are getting into the final moments now, this final practice session. It's interesting, it comes back to that point about Antonelli and the second seat of Red Bull as well. It almost maybe distorts slightly the constructors' battle. Okay, not for the title win, McLaren leaps and bounds ahead of the rest, but when you look at it and you actually boil it down, well, Mercedes haven't had the second car there consistently scoring big points like George Russell has been, because they've got a rookie getting up to speed. In the second Red Bull, we know all of the struggles that almost any driver has in that second seat trying to pick up points, and it ends up almost giving a bit of a distorted view of the Constructors' Championship, because Red Bull and Mercedes, more or not, are fighting with one car at races.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of the above. So it's super important for that second car to rack up. You know, we were talking about Tsunoda earlier, don't we? You know, we came with the car strong. Look at that, Verstappen quicker than Norris. Norris, by the way, is on another lap as well. So they're all trying to push for more laps on the C6, despite us talking about the fragility of it. As we see now, Piastri, he's a bit down, Piastri. His first sector, 2 tenths down on Norris, nearly 3 tenths on Verstappen's time. Let's see what the middle sector does for him coming through 15. He's going to have Colapinto in front of him as he comes through 16. He's lost a bit more time in the middle sector, 41.0 for him. So that compares with Norris's 40.7, so 3 tenths in the middle sector. Verstappen's middle sector is the personal best, so let's have a look at what Verstappen's last sector can do. Piastri doesn't quite feel like this session has gone cleanly for him. He has gone second fastest. He's picked up that toe from Colapinto. He was 2.4 seconds behind, which is just about actually the right distance where you don't lose too much downforce in 16, but pick up a nice toe. Verstappen does improve his time a little bit.
So does Antonelli, and he pops up into 4th place. We'll see what the other Red Bull of Sonoda has got on his flying lap on the softs as Max Verstappen coming through 4, getting oh so close in his Red Bull, and that really is as close as you want it. You could fit a paper clip between the wall and that tyre.
Yeah, so, you know, Piastri picked up that slipstream, and what do we see for him? So he was 3k faster than Norris in the last sector, so that's where some of that time came. But he's still net 3 tenths away from Lando's time. So there's a bit of work for Oscar to do, but how many times have we said the season? You know, in free practice, and he's a bit behind, and he's got to find a bit for qualifying, and then he does.
Yeah, wait for Q3, where he'll nick it at the final moment.
So we'll see. But I mean, for Norris, you know, he should carry a lot of confidence out of this session. He's looked hooked up. I feel like on every run he's been able to deliver the lap time, that the potential of the car. So he'd be confident going in. But talk about confidence, Lewis Hamilton is on a very good lap. A little bit down, middle sector, strong first sector. Bit scrappy out of 16.
Had to have a couple of goes out turning the car in, but he is mighty in that first set. I wonder if he had a bit of a toe. He did actually, because he was right behind Verstappen, who was finishing off his lap. As we join Lewis Hamilton now on board with the Ferrari driver, feeling more optimistic about this weekend. Topped free practice 2 yesterday, finds time and puts himself up into 3rd spot, over 2.5 tenths away though from Lando Norris's fastest time.
So I'm encouraged by the fact that I think we are going to see a Red Bull and the Ferraris challenging McLaren. I think looking at the gap Lando's got, McLaren do have a slight edge.
Locking up every corner. Don't need to loop around for changes. I don't know. It just, I can't attack any corners at the moment. Locking up everywhere.
And that's a real problem on the track. If you don't have confidence on the brakes, you are going to struggle. This is a big track in terms of braking performance and you know, just having that ability to, if you can brake 2 meters later, just think of that gain. You know, when you're doing 200 plus mile an hour into turn 1, you're doing 210 mile an hour before you get on the brakes. If you could pick up an extra couple of meters, it's worth so much. And for George, conversely, having to brake earlier, he's just, and then you're tentative. You don't know when to turn the wheel. You don't know how the car's going to load up. So they need to get that sorted for him before qualifying. Lawson, so he spent a lot of time on the hard tyre. We saw him do that spin early on, and his run on soft pops him into the top 10.
Yeah, the Racing Bulls driver's actually running well at the moment. Sonoda down in 16th. A rough final couple of sectors for the Japanese driver. 1.6 seconds off at the moment. What was he on, though?
That's his new soft. So that is his new run. And yeah, I mean, compared to Verstappen now, nearly 1.5 seconds. So that's massive. Okay, Piastri. Wow. You don't win.
You want to shut your eyes. How on earth do they keep theirs open? Such is the precision you need.
Yeah, this is a good first sector from Oscar Piastri. 35.49. That's very strong. So let's see what he can do under braking for 15. Watch his hands. Nice soft hands. And look at this. He's going to get a mighty slipstream from Max Verstappen as he comes through 16. He's lost a little bit in the middle sector. Got a yellow somewhere. Lando Norris has stopped at turn 1.
But it's green flag again, though.
Okay.
So I think he's managed to rejoin quickly. All that, but yeah, it's gone green enough for Piastri. Should be able to
Indeed,
get
I am,
Norris over.
Elizabeth.
He does,
I'm still alive. I'm still alive.
So Piastri across the line does improve his lap time up into 3rd. I mean, this is the thing.
So, end of the session. 60 minutes gone. I'm certainly still alive. Okay. I had to poke you just to be sure. Yeah, I was just watching, that's all. I was gathering all the micro little things, you know. I'm guessing you just went outside for a bit, I'm guessing, or I don't know what you did. Antonelli running to the line. He'll get a tow from the car in front, which is one of the kick Saubers. He stays 5th. Russell Purcell west to the first sector. Still a little bit off Norris. But again, he's been complaining with a lot of locking up in this in this session. Braking turn 15 for George Russell. Getting the car stopped quite nicely. Now on approach to turn 16. We've seen a lot of cars so far struggling. Bit of a rear end snap there for Russell. So still struggling once more for George Russell. He's in 8th. About 4 tenths down. So put him up to maybe P6, P5 possibly for Russell. He's going to get a micro tow, 9 p.m. So nah, I was just resting only, watching some TV along with your stream. Awesome. George Russell stays 6th, 141.9. So, again, a little bit off. But that is FP3 done and dusted. Everybody has crossed the line except Piastri and Norris. Norris is on an outlap. But I'm guessing that's going to be for a practice start. Replay of Esteban Ocon making his way up into turn number 4, I'm going to guess. This is turn 4. Going straight on at turn 3. And that is going to be a bit of a problem. This is Leclerc again at turn 3. Missing the braking marker. And that's 2 cars off down there at turn 3. And Leclerc doing a very good job to spin that thing around. In the process, getting a bit sideways is one of the other Ferraris. I think that is still Leclerc. As he came out of that runoff area just sideways. Lance Stroll, the only person on the medium compound tyres. So Aston Martin are at a bit of a disadvantage, Hulkenberg.
I need to check my seat. It's kind of a little bit crackling and jumping around at the seat mount this session. Okay, copy that. We'll have good luck after.
So Hulkenberg there struggling with his seating. That is FP3 done and dusted. We've got qualifying. Next, I'm going to go take about an hour break. I will be back. That's good record of streams. That's like 3 in a row with a 25-minute break. I'm happy with that. We're going to take about an hour break, and then we'll be back for qualifying for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So I'll be back from 12:30 local time. It'll be like midnight for you, Elizabeth. Yep. Crazy. I know. Good record of streams. I'm going to go take a break. I'm probably going to record this silly cable whip thingy. And 10 p.m. Oh, golly. 10 p.m. for you. 10 p.m. Oof. Is that when the stream starts, or is that right now? Because if that's right now, golly, it's going to be like 1:30 a.m. before the stream ends for you, Elizabeth. It would be 10 p.m. for me, so not bad. Yeah, not bad. So it's like 9:22. I might pop up. Yeah, not a bad idea. Nah. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today. That is Lando Norris topping FP3. So 3 different Lando Norris topped FP1. I mean, I will. Okay. Well, then I'll see you in qualifying, Elizabeth. I'm going to go take a break for an hour, and I'll be back for qualifying a bit later on for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Let's take a look at the results before I end stream for at least an hour. Oh, okay. Lando Norris tops FP3 over Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri in that McLaren. Lewis Hamilton, the Brit, in P4. Kimi Antonelli, the Italian. Italian. George Russell, Alex Albon, Oliver Behrman, Liam Lawson, the New Zealander, in P9. Charles Leclerc in P10. We've had 3 different sessions being topped by 3 different drivers. Lando Norris in FP1. Lewis Hamilton in FP2, and now Lando Norris in FP3. Isaac Hadjar, Nico Hulkenberg, Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Franco Colapinto, Yuki Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon, Gabriel Bortoleto, Pierre Gasly, and Lance Stroll. Italian. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna take a break. But yeah, that's FP3 done. There is still plenty more still to come. We've got qualifying in about an hour's time from 12:35. So I've got an hour and 9 minutes of a break to do. I'm going to go probably watch Formula E because that's on very soon. I'm going to watch Formula E. And yeah, I'm probably going to go chill. I'm going to go... yeah, I'm just going to go chill. Because I've got to go mow a lawn later. Lower lawn? What the Okay. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to go charge my phone. I'm going to go watch Formula E. And I'm going to probably have a few beverages. No, not alcohol. Before you ask, I'm not gonna drink alcohol. I'm not that dumb. Anyways, if you guys enjoy, hit the like button, subscribe. Make sure you return from 12:35. Lower moan, yeah. And see you in an hour. I will see you guys all in an hour for Formula 1 qualifying. See you then. Goodbye. Don't get copyrighted by the ads. Stupid YouTube trying to copy it. You nearly got me.